Hey peeps, Amma here. If you're new, welcome to the channel. On this channel, we engage in thought-provoking conversations for unity and change. If you'd like to be part of this movement for change, hit that subscribe button and turn on your post notifications so you are notified when I upload a new video. Today we are joined by Hlawutelo Khosa, who is a Deputy Director in Investment Analysis at National Treasury of South Africa. Thank you so much, Hlawutelo, for joining me for today's conversation on managing personal finances.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Hlawutelo, I'm sure you'll agree with me that many people in general struggle with managing personal finances. And now with the Covid-19, the managing of personal finances, it's more important now than ever, given that many people have to do with the little money that they have. My first question, just to give a background, can you assess the importance of managing personal finances for personal development?
Okay. Yes, for sure. So, the topic of personal finance is one that has been discussed, I think, on many different platforms on multiple occasions. And I think it's because it's very central and key to the upbringing of people and just how they manage their personal aspect and, as you said, development. So in light of COVID and the environment that we're in right now, I think personal finance and the management thereof is something that is extremely critical for every single individual out there, because what COVID has done, or what any situation or pandemic has the ability to do, is to dry up the stream of income that is used to pay off the expenses that you have. And the expenses that you have filters through to the livelihood that you have. And if that dries up, that has the potential to affect your personal development and well-being. To give an example of something, we are always told to pursue knowledge and to pursue education. In pursuant of all these type of things, you need to pay for them. But now, if your income stream has dried up, how are you able to pay for these kinds of things, which then affects your personal development as a person? So the topic of personal finance is very critical. It's almost the core, it's central to any discussion that we can have in life, whether it's personal development, whether it's future career growth, etc. And managing it is quite critical.
True. I know it can be very exciting to get your first paycheck, right? I mean, there's a lot that one can do with money, and you have clearly indicated the importance of personal finance for personal development. What can a new graduate get the most out of their salary?
Okay. Whenever I speak on personal finances, there's a reference book that I personally use that has helped me in my journey of understanding personal finance. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. It's by George Clason. Very good book. It teaches practical lessons about personal finance, because
I think we
when
can
you speak of
maybe we could put a link to that in the description so that people can get it. Maybe we can put the title. Yes.
Okay, cool. So it's my point of reference for any discussion around personal finance, because it's a very practical book on lessons that you need to take on, regardless of where you are in life. So in this instance, I'll answer your question directly, where you're speaking about as a new graduate. As a new graduate, almost assuming that this is your first paycheck, you don't have debts, so you're fresh into the market, and you just want to know how to manage these things. So there are 7 lessons that the book does cover that I think are quite practical. The first one, because when you start off, your purse or your wallet or your money is quite lean. You don't have that much. You haven't built up a profile of some sort.
Yes.
So the first lesson that is taught is out of any 10 coins, it's the principle of percentages. Out of any 10 coins that you earn, you can spend 9 but keep 1. So it's the principle of saving 10% of any income that you're making. So whatever it is that you have made, get into the habit of saving from a very, very early stage.
Yeah.
And the reason this is important is because in South Africa, we are quite consumer driven. We're consumption driven. We tend to want to spend, because of the lifestyles maybe that we see around us. And, there's nothing wrong with that. The only time that it does become the problem is if we spend more than we earn, So the first principle is spend 9 coins that you've made, but save 1 out of the 10 total coins that you have. Another a key point that is mentioned in the book is control your expenses. It's one thing to save, but if you don't know the difference between what is a necessity and need versus what is a want in your expenses, it can go a long way, being a detriment or in your personal finances journey. So control your expenses. That's one that is very critical. I mean, every point that we mentioned, we can go deep into it, but I just want to give a brief. Yes. The next one is to always guard your money, your treasures from loss. And this can come from different ways. It's with anything, money, if we were to get sick, the first thing that we do is to consult a doctor. I mean, if we're religious, we'll pray. But you tend to go and consult a doctor or physician of some sort. If you get injured, you're a sports person of some sort, you'll consult a physiotherapist. When it comes to the matters and subject of finances, to make sure that you guard the treasures that you are creating, it is also very important to consult those that are entrusted with finances, so whether it be investment specialists of some sort, just consulting, that will help you guard your treasures.
Yes, and that in a way that also helps you to look at your daily ways of spending, right? Because I had a problem of impulse buying, but I consulted and they were like, look at this, they kind of helped me draw a plan, and so now I'm no longer impulse buying because I really did consult to people like you who are in this thing. So it is important to consult, because you don't really know that what you're doing is wrong until you are told that what you're doing is wrong and it's hurting your finances, right?
Yeah, that's very true. You see, the idea behind it is that when you do the impulse buying, it takes away from the budget that you've initially had, because the expenses that you have to spend on that are needs are not going to go away because of the impulse buy that you've just made. So it is very important that what impulse buying does is that it causes havoc and chaos to your budgeting system. Even though you might not have set a budget, intentionally set a budget, but the fact that you go and you intentionally impulse buy on something, it takes you out of that plan, and something is going to most likely suffer. So very good point. That the next one that people need to be mindful of is to make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. So basically what this is if you make it goes back to the principle that we mentioned before. You've got 9 coins, but 10 coins, spend 9, save 1. But if in that 9 you can make investments of that 9, you will grow your treasures much more faster. So it's not really just about the total consumption of the 9, is to understand what is the need in my 9 coins, and from that 9 coins, can I still make some sort of investment with a further 3, and maybe just spend 6, invest 3, and have savings of 1. That is the principle that the book across.
Because also,
yes.
I was saying also where you mentioned the need, because sometimes you find that if you compare your needs and wants, you probably realize that you can do away without wants, and then in a way it gives you more coins to save, right?
Exactly. I mean, if a lot of us were to look at our bank statement at some point in the month and maybe look at the takeaways that we've bought relative to grocery buying, you'd be very shocked. You can buy a burger for over 100 Rand, whereas to buy the patties, 6 patties, maybe 6 buns, some lettuce, tomatoes, can cost you 100 Rand, and you can eat that same burger over 6 days.
Yes.
So those are the kinds of habits that we probably need to start learning as new graduates, because we're quite fresh in the market. We are not yet indoctrinated into the land and the idea of debt and consumption with our own monies and our own income. The last one that I do just want to mention is we need to learn as a new graduate to increase the ability to earn. Now, this principle is very critical, and I nuance it in a slightly different way, where we need to, as new graduates, we need to start understanding the principles of cash flow and how cash actually operates. There are 3 critical terms. You mentioned these terms, people start thinking you're speaking accounting, but it's basically how money works and how money flows. You've got income, which is your new job as the graduate, so you get a salary. You've got expenses, that is what your lifestyle, so your ability to live, becomes your expenses. And then we've got a third critical component, which serves as the foundation to the 2 of these things, which is an asset. Now, an asset we're being taught is, a house and a car, which is true. I mean, car, it can depend, but it's true. But what we don't see is that an asset is a resource, right? It is a resource that gives you the ability to earn. So when we start off as a new graduate, we ourselves and our time are the asset, because in us using our intellect and our time to work for someone, we get paid and we generate an income from them. But now the problem is we then get stuck with using the one resource that we start off with, which is us. So we get trapped in that cycle where we start increasing all of our expenses, but our income remains the same because the asset has not changed. It's just us. So we speak to our boss, we want a salary increase, or we get a second job, we get a part-time job. The thing that we need to start teaching ourselves, is how to increase our asset base. So to understand that we must not just consume our time to draw our income, but we must look into different things to draw the same income. So to increase the asset base, now you can look at tangible and intangible things. You can maybe look at purchasing a house, for rental income. You can look at being in a business for dividend income. You can look into maybe putting some surplus cash into the bank for interest income, etc. Because that then creates a new asset base that is not just us, that increase our income and then cover our expenses.
Like finding multiple streams of generating income by expanding your assets.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Graduates must not get trapped in the thought that the one asset that they start with, which is themselves, is then the asset that is going to keep them for the rest of their life. Because at some point it is going to fall short.
Just to go to the third question, can you help us assess the impact of social media on managing personal finances?
Yeah, so social media is a very interesting space. What social media has done is that it has started to shape what our lifestyles start to look like. And that can be good, that can be bad. It depends what lens you want to look at it from. We can first look at it from the good lens where, social media has broken a lot of barriers that used to be there. If you wanted to have a production company, or you wanted to be an actress or have a YouTube channel, you'd probably have to go to Studio Brews back in the day, or go to YoTV, you'd have to. But now what social media has done is that it has brought the audience closer to the producer. And you no longer need, the expensive studio somewhere in Auckland Park, or, somewhere in Cape Town to actually get access to people to listen to your content. So from that perspective, social media has been a great revelation. On the other end of this, social media has started to shape what our lifestyles and behaviors look like. Where it does become detrimental is when people live, or when we as people live a life where our expenses exceed the income that we receive, because that lifestyle is driven by social media. So I need to be seen with the latest mobile. I need to be seen with the latest cell phone. But the income that I earn cannot cover that cell phone, cannot cover that car. And I think that's where the mismatch and the problems and the challenges sort of come. But it's to smash social media and say that it's not a good thing and it hurts personal finance. One just needs to be very disciplined. One needs to understand how to manage their own affairs. One needs to understand that I cannot live a life of debt because my consumption at some point is going to catch up.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So in other words, you just have to understand your situation, right? And not be influenced by what you're seeing on Instagram, for example. You just first have to assess your situation and what you can afford, really, right?
I agree with you. You need to do one critical thing that is needed for everyone, and it's been spoken of by many different speakers, is budgeting. If I think that's why people tend to associate accountants with being frugal, stingy, because I think inherently what happens in an accountant's mind is they can already tap into what their budget might look like in their head before they want to make a purchase of something, and that those are the principles that then get taught through the studies of somebody who's studying accounting. But it's not to say that is not that is a bad thing or it's a good thing, but we need to start having that financial discipline if we want to increase our wealth and
absolutely Okay. Wow, Hlawutelo, thank you so much for that. Just for my last question, what can a person who is having one stream of income and still entrenched in poverty do to develop themselves and to change the situation that they're in?
You see, with this one, we first need to before we can even talk money, because that is not the root problem or the root cause of the issue. We need to get to a point where we understand what the person's background is like. And in South Africa, we're quite fortunate because it's been quite, we're very aware of what happened with our past, where, we were first colonized, then we went through apartheid, and then we attained democracy. But what is not spoken of is the years during apartheid and the colonization, where that financial education was withheld, from people. So when you're growing up in a family, your parents are not teaching you the lessons on money because the money is not there. They are segregated from the environment and the community. You don't have the ability to earn income or to make income. They're only taught to consume. So I truly believe we first need to tackle that kind of a question. We need to have those kinds of discussions from a social perspective. Once we understand, those inherent social ills that a person has gone through, we can start addressing those, and then we can get to the finances, where we can now talk about what I mentioned earlier, to increase your asset base. You cannot just keep seeing yourself, your manpower, your hours as the asset base. Time doesn't change. You only have 24 hours in a day, and it's fixed and it's constant, But now we need to start thinking of how do we build up this person's profile so that they can get access maybe to more capital to buy things that can help them increase income. It's a process. It's a journey. I'll take it from social into financial, and then we can come with ideas.
That's true. So in other words, we also need to consider how we were raised, our background, and how our parents and grandparents were doing things, or were managing their finances, and we were watching. So I get what you mean. So education is key if we are to help our people move away from poverty and get the most out of their one stream of income. We have to look at education, right? Okay.
Yes, and when you say education, it's not just the formal education, because Invariably what happens in people's minds when you say education, you think of
going
varsity,
to
college, whatever it may be. It's also just financial education.
Yes.
Social media has access to tools, financial tools that, you know, we can Google, we can YouTube, we can enrich ourselves a little bit more on how these things work.
Yes.
So education is
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Hlawutelo. I cannot thank you enough. This was amazing, and I really hope a lot of people tune in. This is a need, especially for South Africa, especially for Africa, where we are still lagging behind, and we're still trying to catch up with other developed regions. So thank you for creating the time for this conversation.
You are very welcome. And thank you very much once again for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. If you have any thoughts about today's conversation, please leave a comment below. And if you have enjoyed the discussion, please remember to give this video a big thumbs up. Until we see each other again next week Saturday. Take care and bye.